Today in our 2017 Jeep Cherokee, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Brake-Lite Relay Kit for towed vehicles, part number RM-88400. Now there's several different reasons why you might need a brake light relay. For instance, one of the main reasons why is because our vehicle is going to override the signal coming from our RV. So when we push on the brake pedal on our RV, it's not going to send the correct signal to our brake lights because our vehicle's overriding that. When we're not flat towing our Jeep and we're just driving like normal conditions, our electrical system along with our brake lights are not going to be affected at all. Now there's two installation applications for the brake light relay. One for most vehicles with a key and normally open brake pedal switch. And in this situation, you would use the towed vehicle's ignition circuit to activate the brake light relay. On our car here today, you'll use the second application because our Jeep Cherokee has a push button start and features a normally closed brake pedal switch. In this case, you're going to use the motorhome's taillight circuit to activate the brake light relay. This means that any time that you are towing your Jeep, you must turn on the parking lights in your motorhome. Now that we've gone over how everything works and why you might need one, let's show you how we got it installed. To begin our installation, we're going to find our brake switch. So if we come to our brake pedal and follow it all the way up until we find a harness, we're going to need to test those wires coming directly off of it. Now what we're going to be testing for is the cold side of the brake switch. And what that means is that you're not going to have any signal or any power going to it until you push on the brake pedal. So I'm going to go ahead and test that since it's going to be rather hard for you to see, and I'll let you know which wire it is. Now I tested all my wires and I found out that the cold side of the brake switch is going to be the dark green wire with the light green stripe on it. Now I already put a loop in, and that's what that green wire is. I just cut the wire in half and extended it down to make it a little bit easier on myself. Now I do want to mention when you are testing these wires, you need to be very careful to not break the wire when you're piercing it, and also you do not want to disconnect the brake switch from the pedal because of how sensitive the computer is in the Cherokee. So here's the loop that I put in on my cold side of my brake switch, just so you can see. But as you can see, I'm not getting any power at my circuit tester. But if I push on the pedal, that's going to let me know that this is the correct wire because I'm only getting a signal when the brakes are applied. So here's our harness that we're going to be attaching and putting our relay in. Now we're going to start out with the blue wire. The blue wire, we're going to go ahead and slide off the cover that's on the end of our wire. Our blue wire is going to attach to our cold side of our brake switch in this loop that I put down, but the blue wire is going to go to the closest side or towards the brake switch. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my wire, and then I'm going to have to look up and see which side of my wire is going towards the brake switch. So we'll go ahead and cut our wire, and we can strip back both ends. So we can take our included butt connectors in our kit, and I'm going to crimp it in place on the end of my blue wire here. Give it a quick tug, make sure everything's secure, and then I'm going to need to attach the other end of my green wire to here. Now the other end of our green wire, I'm going to put a butt connector on that as well. And this is going to be the wire that's going towards our tail lights away from our brake switch. And that we're going to connect to our black wire that's coming off of our harness. We're going to bring our attention to our white wire now. Now I'm going to cut off a little bit of the excess wire, and then we're going to take our provided ring terminal and we're going to crimp it into place. Now the white wire is going to be our ground, so we're going to need to find either a factory ground that we can attach this to or a bare metal spot that we can take our self-tapping screw and put it into place. Now if we look farther back towards the firewall here, we're going to notice that there's a lot of insulation, and I'm actually just going to pull this away and put my self-tapping screw right into the firewall there to make a good ground. So we should have two wires left, a green and a red. Now we're not going to be using the green wire at all in our application, so we're going to be focusing on our red wire. I'm going to take my red wire and I'm going to put a blue butt connector on the end of it. Now our red wire, we're going to need to connect to the wire that's sending the signal for our taillights from our motorhome. So we're going to need to pick up some extra wire because we are going to have to go to the engine and connect to those wires. Now, if you need some wire, you can pick some up on our website by the foot using part number DW02359-1. So I'm going to strip back the end of the wire. I'm going to attach it to the red wire and the blue butt connector. We're going to need to run this wire out to our engine so we can meet up with our other wiring. Now, in order for me to get through the firewall, if we follow it up, we're going to find a grommet right here that already has some existing wiring going through it and around it. And I'm going to be taking a piece of airline tube and I'm going to push it through. That way I can get to it on the other side in the engine compartment, and then I can pull my wires through. So I'm going to take my white wire and I'm going to actually put it into the end of my airline tube. And just to make sure that it's nice and secure, I'm going to take a little bit of electrical tape and put it on the end so it won't come off. Now we can move to the engine side and start pulling our airline tube through. You want to make sure you pull all the slack out when you're pulling your wires. So I'm actually going to take my wire, and since our wiring is underneath on our frame, I'm going to drop my wire down so that I can get it at the bottom of my vehicle. So we're going to drop it down, making sure that it's not going to get hung up on anything, and then we can grab it from underneath. So here's where my wire came out, and we're going to need to tap into our 4-pole wiring that's already installed in our vehicle. Now, the wire we're going to need to get to is going to be the brown wire. So we're going to need to separate our wires so that we can cut just the brown wire. Now, if you can't pull the wires apart with your fingers, you can use a utility knife like I'm going to use, but you need to be extremely careful not to cut the wire itself. You just want to separate the wires. I'm only really going to worry about my brown wire, so I'm only going to cut it away just enough so I can get access to it. Now that our brown wire is separated, I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half and strip back both ends. Now I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra room, and I'm going to cut the wire that I ran down to my brown wire and strip back the end. I'm going to take my brown wire and the wire coming off my brake relay, and I'm going to connect them together on one end. Then I'm going to take a yellow heat shrink butt connector, since it is on the outside of the vehicle. I want a little bit more protection against any corrosion or any moisture buildup. Put both wires in one end of my butt connector and crimp it into place. Now on the other end of our butt connector, I'm going to take the other end of our brown wire and I'm going to put it in and crimp it into place. Now I'm going to be using a heat gun to shrink down my connector, and if you're using an open flame, such as a torch or a lighter, I just want to remind you to be extremely careful not to char the connector or the wires themselves. I'm going to go ahead and put an extra few zip ties to secure my wires under here, and then I'm going to go back under the dash and secure the other wires as well. With all of our wires tidy up, we can go ahead and take our relay and put it in place on the harness. There is only one way it'll fit, so you're going to line it up and then put it into position. I'm going to make sure you push it in all the way, and we can tuck it up behind this panel. Now the way our Brake-Lite relay is going to get power and work is it's going to get the signal from our RV from the taillight signal. Now since we don't have our RV here, I'm going to go ahead and turn the taillights on my tester to simulate the RV. So we can go ahead and go to the back and make sure that they're on. Now we can see that our taillights are working, but if I come into the vehicle and I push on the brake pedal, you can see that nothing's happening. And that means that our relay's working, because our brake pedal is not going to override the signal that the RV is sending out. Now if I turn my tester off and the taillight signal from that off, which would simulate regular driving, if I come to my brake pedal now and I push down on it, you can clearly see that the brakes go back to normal, and our car is going to act normally when we're not hooked up. And that'll finish up our look at the Roadmaster Brake-Lite Relay Kit for towed vehicles, part number RM-88400 on our 2017 Jeep.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.